So who do you like out of this group? You know, I met you a couple of weeks ago in the spin room at the GOP debate, and I was able to ask Scott Walker a question, and I asked him about campaign finance. And I got to tell you, sometimes you look at someone and you go, "This guy's dumb." I mean, he struck me as dumb. I could just see it. You know what I mean? Like, I could just look in him and see this is not a bright guy. Now, you don't have to comment on that specifically.
I'm not going to comment on that.
But he dropped out.
He's not dumb. Okay, we can say that.
Look, he's won a lot of elections. He won more elections than any of those guys. But what do you think of the general crop?
I think the general crop overall is a very strong group of individuals. You look at the governors that are in the race, or were in the race. You look at the senators, Carly Fiorina, very successful businesswoman. Ben Carson, very successful neurosurgeon. So it's a diverse group. It is the most diverse field we've put up ever. Mm-hmm. Not just in terms of a woman, an African American, all that, but just in terms of background and experience, the depth of it. I mean, Jeb Bush was did a good job as governor in Florida, elected strongly 2 times. John Kasich, same thing in Ohio, went through hell in the first term and weathered that storm.
What did you make of Kasich's answer to the gay marriage question in the first debate?
I thought it was a beautiful thing.
I thought he did great.
For me, that was an authentically Republican response. And Jeb Bush, when he talked about immigration, again, an authentically Republican response. Because at the end of the day, what Jeb was saying, and he used the language that people could understand. He didn't come at it in policy and political ease.
Sure.
He used the word love, which to me and to a whole lot of people was a recognition of people behind the policy. Mm-hmm. That while you can sit back and talk all this smack about, we're going to build walls and we're going to electrify them and we're going to do all this crap, at the end of the day, there are people behind that. And if you don't appreciate that, then you don't have a good policy. It's not a smart policy. And I think that was something, my takeaway in his discussion, which I thought was a very humble and a very personal way to talk about immigration. No one ever talked about it on either side in those terms. And I thought he did well by that.
So in a way, you kind of want to combine these guys. If you could combine a couple of the issues into some Frankenstein candidate.
Yeah, right? I mean, we're doing pretty good on the Frankenstein part without the combination. But I think that in a real sense, you're right. I mean, what I'm looking for at the end of the day, I like John Kasich, I like Jeb. I mean, I like a lot of these guys. But what I'm looking for, and I've said this from the very beginning of the cycle, I'm looking for someone who's prepared to sacrifice their race for the presidency. That's what it's going to take.
Yeah.
In other words, and Jeb got close. He used the words when he said, I'm willing to lose the primary to win the general. Mm-hmm. But really sit there and go, you know what, America? This is it. Let's just cut the crap. You want too much and we can't deliver. That's how the conversation starts. Because it gets you into spending, it gets you into programs, it gets you into the size of government, it gets you into policy, it gets you into everything. We are our own worst enemies as Americans. Because what do we say, folks? We say, cut spending, less government, I want more in my paycheck. And then in the next sentence, why aren't you putting more money in that program? Why aren't you spending more on this?
Right.
Why aren't you giving to this cause over here? What do you want? So the question for me is always boiled down very simply, and you know the motto. You did a little economics in school, right?
A little bit, not well, but I did.
You know the whole idea of guns and butter.
Yeah.
All right, and it was always you can either have guns or you can have butter. Well, I think there's a different model where you can actually have both. But the only way you get to have both is by prioritizing. Because in any given moment, at any given time, something is going to be the priority. So that's what we focus on. Let's address that. So that means we're going to spend a little bit less on guns today and more on butter because we need to put people back to work. We need to make sure that hospitals stay open. We need to make sure that, that bridge is falling down. We need to fix it. Right. All right? That's the priority. So we put a little bit more into that. At another time, the priorities may shift. Okay, whether it's something that happens overseas, ISIS gets more stupid than they already are, whatever, and you've got to deal with that, then maybe we spend a little bit less, we reprioritize, and we don't do that. The second thing is, government gets out and it says, look, we're going to impose these restrictions, we're going to make you do this, and we're going to give you all this stuff. All right, fine. I'm happy with that. Great.
Right. People like stuff.
People like stuff.
Yeah.
But no one ever goes back to see or find out how the stuff is working and whether or not the program that you've designed, No Child Left Behind, actually works for teachers in the classroom. Or whether, the institution that you've created, our social safety net, in all of its various forms, actually meets the needs of the people who's supposed to be treated. I'm thinking right now the VA. So again, making government accountable for all of that is important, but also the role that we play in that process is equally important, because what's happened now is our politicians, you're telling them every different thing. And so if you come at this way, you come at this way, you come at this way, what happens? They just stand still.
Right.
And they do nothing.
And then they're not governed by a basic set of principles that you talked about earlier, so they're going every which way.
So they're going every which way, and they're giving everybody anything, and they're just sitting back going, well, that's what you want, and I'm done.
Yeah, all right.
And that's not what we want, ultimately. We are actually looking for someone to take the risk, which is the bottom line point. Are you prepared to take the risk to do the job? So when I was lieutenant governor, my approach to being lieutenant governor was, I only have 4 years to do this job, because the other 4 aren't guaranteed. And they weren't, because I didn't win the election. But I walked out having reformed our minority business enterprise, got charter school passed in the state, and worked on a number of initiatives, including the death penalty that the governor asked me to work on. And I felt that we had done the job that people had sent us to do. Now, the politics took over in that case, and that's the risk. The governor of Maryland, my buddy Bob Ehrlich, got fired with a 62% job approval on election day. Mm-hmm. But people hated Republicans in 2006 because of the war and a lot of other things. So, but you do the job. You can't think about the next election. And right now, our politicians are more concerned about being primaried or losing an election, and they don't do the job.
Yeah, so that's really where I want to go with this. But do you want the 30 seconds to do Trump, or should we just?
No, we can do Trump.
All right, 30 seconds, go. What do you make of this thing?
Trump is an enigma wrapped in a question mark, he's a lot
wrapped in a wig.
Wrapped in a wig. Yeah. He's all these things. He's all these things that have upset the status quo of American politics. Everybody wants to run a conventional campaign, except Trump. He's running an unconventional campaign. Everybody else is running a conventional campaign in an unconventional time. And they don't know how to deal with it or what to do with it. And he is, whether or not he gets the nomination, all of that remains to be seen. Folks, we're a long way from the first vote being cast.
Can you believe we're over a year away from the election? Doesn't
no,
that seem
we're actually,
crazy?
well, no, but we're actually only 3 months away from the first primary caucus votes. And that's where the real rubber begins to meet the road. That's when voters actually have to go into a caucus room like this or in a voting booth and actually think about who are they going to give this next charge to be the president. And I think that dynamic, as you get through this third debate and the fourth debate in December, and then into January, will begin to settle. But Trump has changed the way we do this. And I think that's good. I appreciate it. I talk to people all across the country. They don't like what he said about Mexicans. They don't like the way he talks about women. They don't like a lot about Trump. But every sentence that starts like that, the next word is but. I don't like what he said, but.
Yeah.
I don't appreciate that, but. And I keep telling folks in D.C., as long as they're saying but,
then anything can happen.
Anything can happen.
So is that the interesting thing about both parties right now? Because Trump and Bernie, to me, are hitting on the same thing, which is that the system is broke. In the first debate, Trump basically said, yeah, I gave Hillary a lot of money and she showed up at my wedding, because that's how politicians operate, right?
Yeah, he's telling the truth.
And right, look, he's telling the truth on that side. So you have the capitalist, right? The poster child for capitalism, and the poster child for socialism, and those are the two that are making the wave. So what do you make of that?
Well, there's your ticket next year. That's it. That's Sanders versus Trump, 2016.
Yeah.
I want to be at that party. I'm going to have myself a gin and tonic and some popcorn.
Yeah. Can you imagine the two of them? I mean,
camping.
really, like in the debate, if it was the two of them, because Bernie is
my
completely
God.
unfiltered, Trump's off his rocker. I mean, it would be something, right?
No, wait a minute. So why is Bernie unfiltered and Trump off his rocker?
Because Bernie
that's
is a politician.
Why can't Trump be unfiltered too?
Well, no, Trump is unfiltered,
Well,
but there's
then
nothing
why is-
beneath the filter,
Well,
right? Trump's just saying
tell
shit.
Tell that to all the people who are following him.
I've been trying to tell them. They're not
but,
listening.
But you're actually making the more important point that folks keep missing. It's that, and I'm not. Yeah, I'm going to call you out.
Bring it.
It's that
Come on.
attitude. It's that attitude that's pissing everybody off. You think you know better than the person who's following him, and that's just not.
I'll go with that.
That's just not right. You've got to respect it. That's where our politics has gotten to. We've stopped respecting the fact that I can follow you because I actually like what you're saying, even though you think he's full of shit. Excuse me.
Right. So I'm listen.
But
Yeah.
that's the American process.
No, so I'm with you on that.
I get to do that. You don't get to judge it.
I'm with
and
you
if
on
you
that,
do,
but don't you think Trump?
don't judge it out loud because then I may hit you.
Fair enough. So I'm
That's
with
what
you
the
on
country's
that.
saying.
So I'm with you on that. But to me, Trump, this isn't a real candidacy.
How do you know that?
I just don't think so.
Why do you say that?
We'll revisit this in a month.
No. He has filed the paperwork.
Yeah.
He's disclosed his income. He's got a campaign organization. Trust me, this brother's got a campaign organization in a number of states that people don't even know he's got a campaign organization in. He's doing the things. Look, you know what was a telling moment? I don't know if how many of you caught it. Remember when he rolled out his economic plan?
Yeah.
What did you notice about what he did? Anybody?
It was at Trump Tower.
It's everything's at Trump Tower.
Yeah.
He had note cards.
Yes, it
He
was the
did
first
not
time.
read
yeah.
off the top of his head. He read off a prepared text. Trump is in this thing the right way. Everything he's done up to now has gotten your attention. And now he's rolling out a little policy on this, a little policy. I'm telling you, watch it, because the attitude of the folks in Washington about his campaign is the thing that keeps him in the campaign.
Yeah, I get that. I mean, I do get that.
I know you
because,
hate
look,
hearing that, but it's
no,
true.
All right, so well, I can hear something and be
that's true. You
yeah.
can.
Look, Huffington Post says they're not going to write about him in the politics session,
dumb.
and right, that gets
It's dumb.
the base angry. All right, so that was the longest 30 seconds ever.
I know.
on Trump, right?